Hi, I'm Clésia Mendes and welcome to Womanhood from the Inside Out. In this interview series, we'll be discovering and uncovering the nature of womanhood from the inside out. Why is it important? When does it show? How can we identify it? And what are the implications of womanhood from the inside out? And today's guest is my dear friend, Denise Holland. Denise is the founder of the business class performance Excellence Within, which originally focused on the fields of high performance sports, an area that she has been involved as a national athlete and coach for over 20 years. At the peak of her career in elite sport, Denise was the Scotland national coach for netball from 2008 to 2013, and her highlight was leading the Scottish Thistles via 46 international caps from world ranking 17th to 12 to gain qualification for the Commonwealth Games held in Glasgow of 2014. And currently, Denise extended her work to the fields of education, law enforcement, and business. Welcome, Denise.
Hi. Thank you, Clésia. That's lovely.
My pleasure. So, my favorite question, how did you first came across the three principles?
Oh, wow. That's a lovely question. And it's funny, isn't it? Because I actually now see, Clésia, that there are times in my life where, of course, I can see the principles playing out way before I even had any understanding of what was going on. But I suppose to share, when I left Netball Scotland in 2013, and to remain really professional, but when I left there, I was really in a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain in terms of fairly burnt out. I travelled a lot to go to Scotland for that role, 65-hour weeks and travelling from Kent to Scotland every week. And we had a great squad and we were really focused. And so to kind of leave that prematurely was really disappointing to me. And so when I left there, I kind of just put my hands up in the air and just said, okay, give me something to keep me occupied for the next 3 months. And I just knew that I've always known that I'm part of a greater whole, call it God, call it spirit, call it source. And I was just really asking for help. And I came across Jamie Smart's book, The Clarity, which led me to Michael Neill's book, Inside Out Revolution. And somewhere between those two books, I just had this kind of profound realization that the experience that I was having, I was making it up. And that I was really, really shocked that, oh my goodness, I don't actually have to feel like this. With that, I just felt this real sense of ease and this real sense of relief that there was this experience that I was having about my role and about leaving my role prematurely, and any discomfort that was giving me or appeared to be giving me wasn't actually coming from there. It was coming from me. It was coming from this incredible intelligence and this divine power of thought to create it. And that's when I was kind of one of these people who just had this profound realization about my experience as a human being. And then it just changed everything. It really did everything just started to settle down, and I started to see, how much I had on my role and my life and what I was doing in my life. And so that was kind of my introduction, I suppose, to the principles in action in me. So that was in January 2013, and then this has been a 3-year beautiful journey you know, just to finish the story, I actually ended up going to the Commonwealth Games and having a beautiful time. I had nothing but love and compassion for the team, the coaching team, even, you know, everybody involved. It completely changed the ground I stood on, which is so different, Clésia, from just changing your mind, just not kind of dealing with those thoughts and then coming to terms with it. You know, it was so different from that. There was no doing it, just literally transformed the ground I stood on. And that's the only way I can kind of describe it.
I got really impacted when you spoke about transforming the ground where you stood on, because it's almost that there was the way I've seen it, that there was a shift in your foundation. You've seen something very fresh, something very new, and that changed your experience of the games altogether.
Yeah.
Now, something just occurred to me. How does what you're talking about relates, for example, with being in a zone, high performance athletes, or even high performance people in all sorts of positions, for example, executives, business people, or even moms with plenty of children, right? So how is it possible? Is there a bridge or a correlation between being in a zone and what you're seeing at the moment?
That's lovely, Clésia, and a great question, because it's one that actually I was at the high performance conference called New Horizons in Scotland last week, and I tell this story as to how I see something now, and it is a performance story, and I used to coach the Brunel Hurricanes, and they were playing in the England Super League. And the Glasgow Wildcats, which was the Scottish Thistles national side, were due to play them in the England Super League down in Surrey, down in the southeast. And it was a really strange thing, because I noticed that in this game, because I had coached the Brunel Hurricanes, I had nothing but love and respect for sport. I had nothing on it. I wasn't personally invested in it. And I noticed that at the time, I was very clear about it. I was really excited by the contest between these two sides. And something really strange happened. The Brunel Hurricanes was full of England players. In fact, I think there was 5 or 6 in the squad, and the Glasgow Wildcats were just starting out, so they really didn't have very much at all, and it was the first year of the season, and we went into the game and we were winning. We went up, and it was like a real shock to people, least of all the Brunel Hurricanes, and then at 3/4 time we are up 37-31, and we were going into the last quarter. And then there was an injury break, and they were coming back at us. And there was an injury break at 41-all. And from nowhere, I was really, really just loving the game, just living life. I was just doing what it seems. I was just doing what we do. We get inspired by these activities. And I made this decision to play a player that's never played that position before, ever. And I said to her, what I want you to do is just go on there as wing defense. And I see that you have it to put some pressure on and to reduce those passes into their attacking circle, because our shooters are on fire right now. And I just want to give them a bit more service. And she looked at me and she just, yeah, I can do that. She just saw within me, I think, that I just had complete faith. It came from nowhere. It was totally a surprise to me. And she went on and we won the game 47-41. And it was a big upset. It was a huge upset in the England Super League. And I think that even contributed to me winning Player of the Year, Coach of the Year for that year. It was bizarre, and it points to the fact that actually, when we come from source, when we allow our minds to clear, when we're not personally invested, when we don't need to get something from it, make us feel whole and complete, we're just free. We call it psychological freedom. We're just free to play the game of life. We're involved 100% and we're not invested. Dr. George Pransky, my mentor, has done a CD about that, and it just is so powerful for me. And I can see that in that moment, in that game, I had gone beyond what we call this performance zone of clarity, and I'd gone right through to engaging in the match from source. That's what we're designed to do as human beings. That's the intelligence behind the system, working for us, rooting for us. We're wired to do that. It's not somewhere we have to get to. That's actually part of our design. It's part of our makeup as human beings. This incredible design that we have that's playing out for us, that is there for us all the time, no matter what, even if we're not aware of it consciously.
Denise, I absolutely love that story, and for several reasons. One of the reasons is because for the people who have been following the show, and we kind of, with several of my guests, we have been dabbling around, and what I want to create is to create a context where we get to share stories. And I know some people will get something, will get a few glimpses, and then if they become curious, they can go and find more resources about it. That's great. And in the end of the day, I'm a pragmatic lady. I like results. So when you're telling a story about high performance, when you are completely connected to source, and you get this insight, and it's completely out of the blue, because if you were caught in your thinking externally, anyone that would be looking from the outside would be thinking your decision makes no sense whatsoever. But that is not what you are connected to. You are connected. You spoke about being really loving the game, having a lot of compassion, being completely involved, and then you had that inspired idea, and you acted in the inspired idea, and your inspiration spoke to your player's inspiration, because she got it, what you had in mind. She said, "Oh yeah, I can do that." So when you come from that place, it touches something very real in other people, and people feel that, and they get to expand and try things on. Yes, that's what I've seen. And something that had just occurred to me, it was the word competition. And I'm not too sure if this is what many people are thinking, but it was just a question, because some people may be thinking, okay, so if you are loving the game, we're not making this stuff up. It's just the world we live in, and it feels fabulous. It's lovely. But where is the place of competition? You're not attached to the game, and I guess because you're not attached, you are free. You've got the psychological freedom to try new things and go way beyond what would be considered normal. So how do you see competition nowadays?
Another really great question, Clésia. And it's, for me, I'm seeing more and more, this is really fresh for me, because I'm really seeing the simplicity of life. I'm seeing the way in which the creative process in us is just is. And for me, any sort of engagement in activity, and let's call this competition in sport, but this of course could be playing out in any part of our lives, two people going for the same role, sport. It could be, there's all sorts of times in our lives where we come up against, well, is one going to get it over the other one, right? And we kind of call that the competition. All right. Well, for me, I see that if the ground you stand on, if you are coming from a place of complete security and you're just connected to your creative process, you're having this foundation of solid ground, that there's no need to prove yourself, there's no need for approval, you don't need to be right, you don't need to be first. All of these things that we seem to learn culturally as we grow up, because we're living in a innocent misunderstanding of an outside-in world, where it would appear that circumstances and conditions on the outside create our experience. And we know that's not true. Like we absolutely know, and we can see when we start to look at this deeper, is that the only thing that we're ever feeling is our thinking in the moment. And when we get a real sense of that, the ground we stand on changes. And so when we come to bring something into the form, like manifest this beautiful formless energy, and we come from a place of curiosity and fascination of, I wonder what I could create. I wonder what's possible here for me. And it's fantastic that you've got other people doing that same thing. Now, maybe their ground may not be the same ground you're on. And that's where I suppose this is proving to be a huge benefit to people, because there are no limits here. There's no restriction to this infinite potential for new ideas, new thought, new manifestations to come into play. And so on the competition, Clésia, it's almost like I see that now it's almost irrelevant that there's somebody else there, that there's an opposition, because you have total respect and love for them, because they're doing the best they can with how they believe it works.
Wow.
And so you just go out and play. I mean, I wrote an article about the All Blacks in the World Cup last year, and I watched that World Cup, and I could taste, I could touch, I could sense, I could taste their connection to source. The ground they stood on was so secure and so creative, and they just played. And in that collective security in a team sport, you're going to get synergy, you're going to get oneness, you're going to get unity. It transforms teamwork in the way we know it, because you're not trying to control or manage people's thinking, their beliefs, their values. What you have is this incredible power and capacity to create. So it's completely changed and transformed the way I see competition. And hopefully that's given you a little preview, a little glimpse as to where I'm now.
Oh, wow. That is absolutely beautiful. When you were talking about the experience of the All Blacks, even though I haven't seen a game, what I had is, it reminded me that movie Avatar. Do you remember? I went to watch that movie 3 times, twice in 3D and the third one in 2D, because I love so much the feeling of the movie, the experience. But there is a scene when I guess the main character is becoming an avatar himself, and everyone within the village, the avatar village, they get together and they start humming, right, and get that energy flowing to make the magic, inverted quotes. And I had this vision of all players like being all separate individuals, but being all one creative mass playing the game. When you spoke about in the ground and that stood up, and I guess is a lot of companies try to get a touch of that, and there are a lot of books about teamwork and synergy, but it's a lot outside in. It's not from the inside out, because when two people have that synergetic a synergy, you can notice, and in amazing creations and creativity come to form from the wall of form. I remember being in a romantic partnership maybe 10 years ago. Oh, wow, that was a long time. Anyway, and it was exactly like that. And even though we are no longer together, when we get on the phone, the connection is still there. And every single time I speak with that person, and it goes both ways. We really want each other to be happy, and we always create cool stuff just from on the back of conversations, because that unity is there. There between us, there is no ego, right? It's just like, oh, what if? And yes.
That is beautiful, Clésia. Yeah, that's lovely that come up for you in that conversation. Isn't it incredible how what we hear and how we hear it, and our beautiful capacity for imagination. And it's just lovely that that's come up for you in that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's lovely. I love that.
And on the back of what you just said, what came to mind right now is the concept of separate realities, right? Is because one of the innocent misunderstandings that we have is that when someone is trying to be right or wrong, if I'm trying to be right, someone else must be wrong, because we come from the presupposition that everyone thinks the same, but everyone lives in separate realities. Could you please expand on that?
Well, I can give it a go.
Okay.
And of course, I must sort of caveat, this is my understanding. So, and my understanding is evolving every moment. So I guess this is just how I see it now. And I don't want to get too esoteric, because I want to still remain really practical. But I guess when I saw, Clésia, my separate reality was when I saw that I was running a film, I was running this story about my experience of no longer going to the Commonwealth Games after 4.5 years of really hard work. And I could see that looking back now, I can see whatever I had on it is only my story. What's coming to mind is really quite gruesome, so I'm going to say it anyway because it's there. And I do tell this kind of story in groups, but when we look at the difference between the mind and the brain, one is biological and one is spiritual. And this is going to sound really gruesome. So audience, if you don't fancy this, then just get a cup of tea.
Oh, don't move, because it's going to be great.
But this really came to me, Clésia. If you actually took the brain and you cut it in half after you've passed, you would see all sorts of bone and tendons and blood and everything. And if you measured it, you'd see sort of energy, you'd see activity. You wouldn't see that person's life. You wouldn't see the memories. You wouldn't see the imagination. You wouldn't see the stories. You wouldn't see the pain, the emotion. You wouldn't see the laughter, the joy of that person. And in that, it just helped me to see that it's all an illusion. It doesn't really exist. we're given this opportunity to live this divine, from this divine intelligence. It's an amazing, wonderful gift that kind of intellectually we can't really get our heads around, but we get a real sense of it. I'm in awe of this amazing design. Like 2 cells make a baby. Oh my word. All of life is in those 2 cells. It's already in there. There's an intelligence that's just wired into the system. And then there's life. And we get to be part of the whole, in as much as we all come into the world the same way. We all leave the same way. And so we all have this wonderful power of thought, and we bring it to life through this incredible gift of consciousness, which kicks in our entire sensory system, sometimes in 3D, total magnified. And we all get to experience life in a different and separate way, but in a way which is happening for all of us exactly the same.
What just occurred to me is that almost like all of us, we've got our own virtual goggles on. And we think other people are seeing the exact same thing others are, but no. Each and everyone's, we've got our own virtual goggles on. And then we get frustrated when and that is one thing that brought me also, is that as we get this understanding and we deepen our own grounding, sometimes we take it for granted and we don't realize how beyond it is of everything else. Because I guess your perception of the world gets upgraded every single time you see something new, something fresh, and you expand to all the experience in your world, your life, that people are involved and connected to, and all of a sudden you just forget, makes part of the reality, is that way by design, that other people don't see it the same way. And what you see is like way high level or deep level, depending how you want to see it, because you deepen your own grounding or connect even more to understanding and connecting even more to life. So, and I'll rephrase that. We are always connected to life. All of us is where we came from, and we make part of it. But it's our experience of it that keeps changing. And because you spoke about babies and practical questions, so can I ask, how did your experience of parenting change since you came across these principles?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest areas of my life that I can see change. I mean, often or not, when you start to look in this direction, you don't see change in yourself. Like, I'm not kind of on it, I don't really see that I would have a different perspective. But with my parenting, I for sure can see it, because I can see it playing out in me. And I'll tell a couple of stories. I kind of use my son James as a bit of a example, and he doesn't mind me saying this. So, he's like a lot of 20-year-old young people, and he games a lot. He loves the technology, and he really does game quite a lot. And sometimes, I will leave him some chores to do, and if I'm going out, and he's at college, he's doing photography, and I'll know he has some free time, and I'll come home. And this has happened to me, and the chores are not done. Right. So I've had all different experiences of those chores not being done. Okay. And so one example, which would be kind of a limited and restricted level of consciousness, would be straight in the door, why haven't you done these chores? This is not acceptable. You've been gaming all day. What a complete waste of time that is. And then it gets worse. And then it goes to and then upset, and then, oh my goodness, what sort of parent am I? And why am I not teaching him these good values of doing your jobs and not wasting time on there? And then I would have a whole heap of personal belief about how another human being should be showing up in the world. Mm-hmm. And then another time I'd come home and I would be, okay, so he's not done the chores, so okay, well, I'll just get on with them myself then. Mm. So sort of accepting but grudgingly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's still hurting me. And then another time I would come home and I would have quite a different experience. I would have quite a feeling of, oh, well, he's chosen to game today. I know he's got a project to do. He must have a lot of thinking around that project.
Wow.
And he must be, he's found gaming as a way to relieve himself of the uncomfortable feelings he's got around doing this project. And that's showing up as wisdom to me in the moment. And so you can see how consciousness is just this capacity to see, to bring thought to life, it's kind of, we exercise our free will, and we can bring to life any thought which is neutral until we bring it to life and it becomes our thinking in the moment. And if the more I see that, the more I get an understanding of that, the more I go up against that resistance, and I kind of really feel it in my body as this gaming or lack of chores is causing me this experience. If I go up against that and absolutely know that that's not how it works, Denise, it might look like that, but it doesn't work like that. And you absolutely know it doesn't, because look at how many different experiences I can have by the same thing. The chores are not done because my son's gaming. Mm-hmm. And so we can see that if I go in at this sort of, for want of a better word, low level, if you like, psychological functioning, it's not going to bode well. It's not going to go well. There's going to be friction. There's going to be argument. There's going to be more and more thinking, and I'm going to get further and further away from clarity of mind in the moment. I'm going to get further and further away. And if I behave and respond from that space, Clésia, then we know where that's going. That's certainly not going to make for a really pleasant discussion over dinner.
Yes.
But when I found, and just to sort of conclude the story, but when I found that I've seen it and I've just sat with it and I've just let it play out, the thoughts just go, they dissolve, I come back to balance and a really clear mind, and I come back to my understanding of who and what I am as a human being, this divine energy that I call love. Mm-hmm. And if I come back to that space, then over dinner, I can have a really meaningful conversation with James, and we can talk about what it is that we both want to achieve in our day for ourselves and for each other.
Yes. And that is beautiful, and it means so many things to me. Mostly when you were giving the account of the same experience or how you had three different experiences, the chores are not getting done. So I've got, let's call it just for to make it easier to understand. So I've got option A, option B, option C, or door A, door B, door C. And the interesting thing is that when you spoke about gaming, that you recognize, oh, he must have a lot on his mind due to the project that is getting done. I felt a deep sense of connection with you. My experience of connection was even more real in that moment. But when you were previously talking about door A and door B, I didn't feel the same sense of connection. What that means to me is that when you, that is, I'm not saying always choose door C, right? It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that when you come from that different position and you recognize really what is important, that is the connection with the person, then the wisdom is freer to flow. I don't know if free is a word, I just made it up, maybe. It's freer to flow. And from personal experience, one of the reasons why I got really, really curious about this understanding is because I used to have a difficult relationship with my mom. And I went to one of Jamie Smart's live events, and he had a quick conversation with me about it. I said, well, really what I would love to is, if I could have a good relationship with my mom. So he told me a couple of things that I don't remember clearly. But one of the many things I guess he told me is that sometimes people get confused where their experience of life is coming from. We may think that it's coming from external circumstances, what someone told or did to us in the past, what they may tell us or do to us in the future, of all the conversation that is going on ahead, all the thinking that is going on. But if you come to recognize that you're always feeling your thinking moment to moment to moment to moment, then you've got the freedom to be present. And how do you know for a fact, Clésia, what your mom is going to say? Because I used to feel very apprehensive of calling my mom, because I would start imagining all the things she would tell me and how I would defend her comments. How come I don't have a husband yet and I'm not getting married and I don't have the kids she wants, the grandchildren, I mean. And when I called my mom after this conversation, I was totally peaceful, totally present, totally calm. And the depth of connection that we had through our call, it was amazing. And that is what got my attention. I was like, whoa, if that can happen with a 10-minute conversation with Jamie Smart, I wonder what may happen if I get to invest more time to look into this direction. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here right now. But all to do with relationships, and my relationships improved immensely. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Clésia. That's a really lovely, powerful story of that the ground you stood on when you went into the conversation changed. It just, and what's coming up for me there is that we're designed to change. Human beings are designed to grow and learn. So nothing really is constant in terms of our perspective, but the thing that is constant is what's underneath all of that. We do get thought. we are connected to this incredible intelligence behind life, and we do bring those thoughts to life for us, which gives us a perspective. And it, as you say, changing moment to moment. I think what came up for me, it was something that you said at the beginning, and I love that, is I'm not trying to have sort of wonderful experiences all the time. And that's not it. That's kind of, it would be nice not to feel so uncomfortable sometimes. But then if I'm trying to always have these wonderful, good, positive, loving, caring experiences all the time, then that's a judgment. That's a preference. And therefore, I've manifested preference.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I'm just connected to life, I can just be in life and I can have my experiences, whatever they are, because there'd be something in there for me. There'd be something there for me to see. And don't get me wrong, I'm not too bowled over by having uncomfortable, aching bellies experiences. But I'm not scared of them anymore.
Yes.
I can have them, and I'm not fearful of them, because I absolutely can see that they're a standalone experience. That's not me. That's not who I truly am as a human being.
I love that. Denise, I'm loving this conversation, and I am aware that we are moving towards the end of today's show. So, if people want to reach you, what would be the easiest way to do that?
My website is www.class-performance.com. Several articles on there, pretty much sport focused, but of course they can apply to anything. And then if you want to get in touch, then you can just email me on denise.holland@class-performance.com.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for that, Denise. For me, if someone would like to reach me with opinions, comments, or because you've got a great idea for a fabulous guest for future shows, you can reach me on Facebook. So that would be www.facebook.com/Clésia.Mendes, and I'll spell that. So that would be facebook.com/CLESIA.MENDES, or if you prefer, you can reach me on my website. So that would be www.clesiamensch.com. Now, Denise, that is my part of my favorite part, by the way. What would be your parting thoughts for our audience today?
I guess what's coming to mind is something that I've just experienced recently, actually, and that is I thought I needed to get out of my own way when I was doing a presentation. I'd have a lot of thinking around it. I'd have a lot of nerves, and I wouldn't. How am I doing? How they're gonna hear it? And I thought, well, okay, what I need to do is get out of my own way. And then I saw that the very notion that I needed to do something, i.e. get out of my own way, was getting in the way. And so now I see that there is a simplicity here. Just live life. Just live your life. And play with it. See what you can create. Have no judge. Let it happen. And we tend to just judge it before it's even come out. Some people don't even do stuff because they say they can't. Well, what if you're just making that up? What would you do if everything you thought about yourself in a negative way, you're just making it up? What would you do if you didn't do that? What if you were free of that? What would you be able to bring into the world, manifest into the world, that the world is waiting to see. Because that's what we want. We want to see what will come into form from with the creative process, what will come through you and be in this beautiful, amazing world we live in. Because everybody is here, as I see it, to just live life and to have fun and to create, to love. Yeah, just let it happen.
Ah, Denise, that is beautiful. A quote that just came to mind was one of Woody Allen's: 80% of success is showing up.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That's lovely. It was delightful to have you on the show here today, and I hope I'll be able to see you again soon, Denise.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Clésia.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye bye.